All right, you guys, so this is going to be fucking funny. I wanted to go over the origins of the gods of Grail because I own the Pantheon. And I know people are like, how dare you? I own the Pantheon. I own it. And we'll get into that in a second. So many of you are probably familiar with the gods of Grail as they are listed on the sign in Mandy's church, which is in Angeltown. So you've probably seen this. I like to look at things in the back end because I'm very much a by the book script type person. So if we're looking through the old signage of the Mandy Church file, you will find that there is a Cathedral of the Five Gods. And no, there's not six like people have claimed. So the original five gods were Azrael, Pachuca, Ultimate Weapon, Mandy, and Galen. And Stefan Noor is just the programmer. He is not a god. And so, these gods, as you can see here, they began in this little chat here. So around 11:18 p.m. on February 18th of 1999, Pachuca had mentioned that Galen himself, Azrael, and Mandy are the most well-known, and they all know the tricks, cheats, and flags, and soon they will have control of the Graal server. So this was around beta mode, because Graal Gold did not officially release. Graal Gold was the first official full version of Graal. And so Graal Gold did not officially release until the end of April of 1999. As we'll see in these news posts, I was mistaken in my other videos. Graal Gold had unofficially released before, and the unofficial release is still beta mode. Because up till now, there is no official full version of Graal. So it's still in development. They don't even have administrators. And you can see this in February of 1999. So Pachuca, Galen, Azrael, and Mandy attempted to take over Graal and the server. And so Pachuca had mentioned that they basically ruled the game and they were the biggest tricksters and cheaters, which you'll find interesting in this video because we'll discuss that and how I infiltrated and overthrew them and took the Pantheon and why I'm the god of gravity. Because this is all happening at the same time. And so anyways, they devised this list of people who they believe could rule Graal. And Galen says that he has some quote-unquote god codes for game managers to use so they can kick users and summon them. And he says it several times. On February 18th of 1999 at 11:44 p.m., Pachuca declares for the first time, I want to be a Graal god. He hears the word god and for the first time ever coins the term Graal god and declares that he wants to become one. And so Galen says, yep. And Pachuca says, I think we should get some sort of power ability no one else has. I mean, Graal is chaotic. Might as well have people who can do things no one else can. And then after that, the most important thing, he says, and also we could have a Greek-type god council. And Galen says that's what the elders were supposed to be, the gods among high. So Galen is seeing a vision where the elders of Graal are actually not really very creative of a term, and it's not very powerful. And so he agrees with Pachuca that the idea of a Greek-style god pantheon is much more interesting sounding. So Pachuca says, let's suggest it to Stefan. Will he be in the Graal IRC tomorrow? And Galen says, probably. I just need to actually get up before 10. And that's because Stefan is in Germany. You'll have to get up early in order to catch him. Pachuca goes on to offer up a possible list of gods. And this is the beginning of the Graal Pantheon, which, by the way, is now my intellectual property. And so if we look at February 18th of 1999 at 11:52 p.m., Pachuca outlines Ultimate Weapon as the god of player killers, Galen as the god of question mark, so that, Galen can dub himself, Azrael as the god of evil, Mandy as the goddess of color, Pachuca as the god of troublemakers. And so Galen says he would like to be the god of gods, and Pachuca says, hell no, you're not my god, basically. And Galen goes on to say, well, then you'll be converted. And so Pachuca begins to call Galen the god of asswipes. At which point, Galen says, hell no, I don't want you to turn on me. I'll just be the god of chaos. Or the god of power. Look how fucking greedy and narcissistic this guy is. And so Pachuca says, I like chaos. And so Pachuca says the 5 chaotic gods of Graal. And he declares a pantheon. So now we have the god of evil, which gets translated into the god of death, which makes sense because Azrael is the angel of death. And the word color gets changed to art, and troublemaker gets changed to mischief. So this is the beginning of the Graal pantheon. And this is February of 1999. And this is shortly after version 1.1 released. So this is being developed in version 1.1 released. So Graal is still in beta mode at this point. And they are transitioning out of beta mode during version 1.1. Because you can see that it says, we've heard of some problems with the unofficial release of Graal Gold in the registration codes. Whatever's happening right here is the final moments of beta version. So technically, I guess I did play during Graal beta version. Because the first full version is Graal Gold. And you can see that because that's when they had the registration codes, and through the README files, Graal Gold was officially advertised as the actual full version. And so the unofficial release of Graal Gold is apparently not yet official. I had not known this before in my previous videos. And so when I had thought that I started playing Graal during the first full version, I guess that's incorrect. A lot of my videos would then be incorrect because technically I was still playing during beta mode. I must have joined Graal around the tail end of its beta mode because Graal Gold has yet to officially release, and they're just now putting together a team. And you can see this is April 11th of 1999, and they're complaining about people who are using the Sword of Doom, which would be me. I was one of those people. And you'll see that in just a second because that's not just me talking. Around April 19th, you can see that I had been pissing them off for quite some time. And Pachuca, who just got his God mode that they had been talking about attempting to obtain in those chat logs, and we'll see that in a second here. Check this out. Pachuca's saying that he wants God powers. And they're talking about Stefan coding in God powers for themselves. And Pachuca says that he's now making up a picture for the 5 gods that he is brainstorming up here. Later that day, Pachuca says someone's trying to sabotage their god plans. They're discussing having a section for the gods on their website so they can try to now make this a reality. You can see he's discussing that only trusted members get to be a Graal god. They wanted it to be exclusive. Pachuca believes someone is attempting to steal their concept. So around February 19th, he's discussing possibly dropping the god subject for a month or two before they canonize it into reality. So Pachuca is asking Galen if he can let Stefan know that they would like to get god powers and make it a real thing. So there they are discussing creating a God page and deprecating the former elders page, which is not divine. So now they're trying to now become canonized divine gods of Graal. On February 20th of 1999, Pachuca at 4:21 p.m. is discussing emailing Stefan and appealing to him so that they could officially become gods and obtain what they called godhood. And you can see about a month later, they now have Mandy and Azrael referring to themselves as various god titles. She's calling herself the ungoddess, and Azrael is calling himself the ungod, which is a little bit weird because she's a child. Like, I don't know. Did Azrael do something with her? What a creep. I'm starting to wonder. Anyways, so they're still talking about the god stuff, and the church, known as Mandy's Church in Angel Clan, would have then received the list of Graal gods around March of 1999, April of 1999. And this is the first beginning of them now trying to canonize their godhood as something real. Again, on April 11th, Pachuca and Galen become the first official staff members of Graal. Pachuca and Galen are now staff members. And I have been playing Graal at this point. Pachuca doesn't like me. We're frenemies. He's hacking my websites, but they're still playing around with registration codes. And I believe Azrael was one of the first people to have purchased one of those codes. On April 19th, you can see that Pachuca has an issue with me. So what had happened during this time was the 5 hackers of Graal, Azrael, Ultimate Weapon, Mandy, Pachuca, and Galen, had just become gods. And I had already learned how to hack Graal, and I had my own websites, my own guilds. And I recruited 2 people, Lord Micah and Lord Crazy, who were friends of mine near me. They were drug dealers. They were like these gangster drug dealers. I had taught them also how to hack. Armageddon taught me how to get the Doom Sword and how to memory edit. And so I was hanging around the IRC channel because I had my own websites. I was actually part of the Ocarina of Time Triforce quest. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's pretty legendary. From htlaws.net, I believe it was, which stands for Hyrule, the Land of Zelda. And they had this website going where everybody was trying to find the Triforce. I had a Triforce website where I was trying to find the Triforce. And I converted that over into my Graal Guild website called Naira. So I must have begun playing Graal right at the tail end of beta mode, because I guess I didn't realize until now that they didn't even have a staff when I began playing. And the Graal gods had just become an idea, and they were trying to manifest it into reality as soon as I began playing. And anyways, at this time, I had become a nemesis of Galen and Pachuca because I was in the IRC channels. And you can see them beginning to complain about the Sword of Doom on April 12th of 1999. So these are the final days of beta mode. And so I'm making the news, and again, on April 19th, I appear. And the reason I appeared is because Pachuca had just gotten his god powers he had been wanting, and so he was now officially a god. And I saw him running around Graal, and I told Pachuca that I am the god of gravity. So at the same time that they all had become gods officially, I was also a god. This all happened at the same time. I didn't even know that it all happened at the same time. I just learned this today. So on April 11th, Pachuca and Galen had just gotten those god positions that they had been discussing in that chat log. And now you can see that they are controlling the virtual world, and they are giving themselves Graal god powers. And so I had risen up, and I had the Doom Sword, and I had accomplices. I had Lord Crazy and Lord Micah, who I taught to get the Doom Sword. And again, Armageddon taught me how to memory edit. And so around this time, I cornered Pachuca, and he had these cheats where nobody could kill him. He had invincibility, he had the Doom Sword, he had his God Guild tag now, and he was destroying everything in sight. Him and Azrael had these special NPCs. Azrael had the Lamp of Salvation. They would throw them, and they would kill everybody in the room. And they had these scripts that would fill the areas with bombs and explosions and arrows, and everywhere you went, you would just die. I had the Doom Sword, and for some reason, I was able to kill Pachuca because I knew the game better than other people. I was the ultimate GoldenEye player. Like, nobody could ever beat me at GoldenEye for Nintendo 64. And so I was really, really a good fighter, but in different ways. And I just knew how things worked. So I chased Pachuca down into a corner near the baddie's castle. And, you know, he's telling me, you're not the god of gravity. You can't be a god. And I didn't realize he had just become one. I was like, Pachuca, I was like, I am the god of fucking gravity. And I was like, and I'm going to fucking prove it. And so I chased him down into this corner, and I would go up and down through the levels. And he had this Doom Sword, and he couldn't hit me because I would go down through the level link and then come right back up. And when he would throw his NPC to kill everybody in the room, it wouldn't kill me. And so I did that over and over and over again, and I must have somehow beat the computer processor that was restoring his health and giving him invincibility mode, that I hit him so fast twice in a row that the NPC that was giving him invincibility didn't refill his health fast enough, which is insane because that's nanoseconds. I don't even know how I did it. And I killed Pachuca, and all of his items flew everywhere all over the fucking area. And after that, he hated me. So that's why everybody started hating me. As soon as he got his powers, I killed him. He must have been humiliated because he was invincible and he truly thought that he was finally a god. And I was the one and only person who ever killed them. And I killed Galen too. And you can see that on Galen's old website. So on Galen's old website, which is Graal Web, you can see here on April 30th that I killed the god of chaos. And he was like complaining about me and saying, Antago must now live in fear. For any time he is on, I will hunt him down like the dog he is. So I must have destroyed the entire fucking god thing that they thought they had going on there. And I was the only one to kill them. And I made the news post, and they had to erect NPCs to try to keep me out of it because I was more powerful than them. They became gods because they were apparently the best fighters, and they were unstoppable, and they had the best cheats, and they knew how to do the game better than anybody. But somehow I had outdone all of the Graal gods, and they refused to call me the god of gravity. So that sky chapel that I created, I wanted to call it, Antago's Gravity Chapel, but they wouldn't let me put my name in there. So the sky chapel got released right after I killed Pachuca, and I just had to call it the sky chapel, the wedding chapel. But that's basically the gravity chapel, but the 5 main gods had refused to let me put my name in there. But everybody knows I made that chapel, you know what I mean? Like, that's not a question. It's just so interesting looking back that I didn't even realize that I basically had become a god at the same time as them, and I was their arch nemesis. And that's why everybody started hating on me. I remember people started following me around, and they're like, you're famous. And I wasn't really reading the Graal news. I was just doing my own thing and killing everybody because I was like the ultimate player. And so I killed them. I must have destroyed the Graal gods and their fantasies of being magnificent. And so they hated me forever. To this day, I think they still hate me. But I did. I became the god of gravity at the same time that they did, and I got the guild tag for it. But I remember like they were refusing to put my name in places, which is why the Sky Chapel had to be called the Sky Chapel, which is why they removed my name from Destiny a long time ago, which is why my name had been suppressed everywhere, and they just sworn to try to get rid of me. And so they had set up anti-cheat NPCs to get rid of the god of gravity, because their fantasy of being the 5 main gods was not working out for them. I'm sorry that I kicked your ass, but you can freaking eat dust, because I didn't care. But anyways, so yeah, my Sky Chapel got released, and that was basically the Gravity Chapel. But I wasn't allowed to put anything of that stuff in there. I wasn't allowed to put Gravity in there, and I wasn't allowed to put Antago in there. So one of the reasons I made Destiny is because they would not put my house in Graal. They made fun of me. They still have my old house levels. I forgot to send the images in. I didn't even know how that stuff worked. I forgot to send the images in, and they ripped on my levels and made fun of them forever. They would not put my levels in the game. And so the only way I was able to get something in the game was I had to just call it the wedding chapel, the Sky Chapel. But that is Antago's Gravity Chapel. They just wouldn't let me put Antago on there or Gravity because they were like, we're the gods, you can't be the god of gravity. But apparently I am, because it looks like I was the only one to kill you, even though you had your god powers, to the point that you were so terrorized after you just had become gods that you're complaining about me. I was your superhero arch nemesis, and I killed you. I was the only one who killed them when they had immortality, both of them. So Galen died in his immortality because of me, and Pachuca died in his immortality because of me. I was the best, and that's just the way it is. And so that Sky Chapel is my Mandy's Chapel to Gravity. And so you can lie about it, but if you go look at why I made Destiny as a separate game, it's because they would not let me put my name in anything, and they wouldn't let me put the word gravity on anything, because they were trying to suppress me from becoming a god. And even though I was the one who was killing them and making all the news, and they put anti-cheat NPCs to try to keep me out, you guys, it's just like a superhero lore that happened in real life. I made Destiny, and I made my own gravity tower, and I did all that stuff because I had to make my own separate games in order to put that lore in there. And you can see it if you go back through the old logs. You can see that I had the God of Gravity guild tag. I had it, and I think this one was in Graal 2001 even. Like, I gave it to myself. I conquered everything to get that fucking title, dude. I've had it as long as they've had their fucking tags. And I had to overcome and conquer these people. And if you look through all of the old leaks, these are all like old files. You can see that Antago God of Gravity is all through the files, but they would not let me put it in the game. So I had to sneak it in. I had to sneak it in, dude. And I did. And so you can see I had my own prevent cheats in my towers, and I had the guild tag. I wore that, so it was real as hell. And so eventually the thing too is like I was the first player world, so Destiny was the first player world, and in there I did the same thing that they were doing, which I had a globe following me around. You can see a mention of it in my old news post on graalonline.com. You can see here where I'm talking about how Destiny is being basically stolen and shoved on Graal Classic to replace where Pachuca's levels had gone. And, you know, obviously I'm the maker of Destiny, and I am removing my globe. So I had a globe that followed me around, just like Pachuca's Black Grail, just like Azrael's Lamp of Salvation. I had the God of Gravity's globe. So it was like clothing rack, and I stuck like a green rock on it, so it looked like a globe, like on a little stand. And it followed me around, and I could use that to do all kinds of powers, like anything and everything I ever wanted. I was the first person to ever have anything like that because I had the first player world. And so I made it do everything that Pachuca and Azrael had in their NPCs. And I had to do all kinds of more stuff because up till this point, nobody could have NPCs that could do all that stuff. They considered it corrupt. And so when I got the first player world, and it was, you know, you could warp to it through Destiny, I had full control over my fucking server. And so people could warp to it through Near Inner Town, and I had my Globe NPC, and I just walked around the fucking place, and, you know, as the God of Gravity, and I did all kinds of stuff to these all kinds of stuff to the fucking players. And Spider and all them hated it. They were so fucking angry. And so they stole my orange horse, my admin horse, and took it back to the warp, which is what that whole screenshot was, where I was like, get off my horse or I'll jail you. Because they were stealing like items. Like they knew that you could steal items and take it through the warp. And anyways, all this stuff existed. It definitely existed. It's a real thing. And so I had the globe, which I guess in retrospect makes sense, right? Because if you're the God of Gravity, right, you control the celestial spheres. Yeah, it existed. People, they were like, you're corrupt, you can't have that. I was like, it's my game. I can do what I want here, which is true. But yeah, God of Gravity appears all throughout that stuff. And eventually what happened was, last year in 2025, I contacted Pachuca because his levels were gone for so long. And I told him that I wanted all of his content because I didn't want it to go down and be wasted and disappear forever because he had it removed because Unix Matt was trying to steal it. And so Pachuca was like, you know, I'm sorry for the things I did to hurt you. You can have all of my content. And so on a whim, I had asked Pachuca for his content, and he signed over everything to me. In a contract, I have it. I have that contract. And according to these chat logs here, you can see that Pachuca created the Pantheon. So I own the Pantheon. Not only did the God of Gravity create his Sky Chapel, not only did I create the first pay server, not only did my God of Gravity tower replace Pachuca's Rainbow Temple, not only did I terrorize and kill the invincible gods and nobody else did, but I got the intellectual property rights, the copyrights to the Graal God mythology. I own the Pantheon. I own it.